Lindsay Grant, other distinguished members of this forum, all who are tuning in via all forms of media, a pleasant good night. I wish to thank the Honorable Prime Minister for affording me the opportunity to share this platform with him in engaging the general public in providing information and addressing doubts for the purpose of reassurance. The National Emergency Operations Center was activated when our borders was closed due to the imported cases of COVID-19. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis acted swiftly on the advice of the technical teams to activate and deploy the necessary resources for the preparedness and response to the threat of the novel coronavirus. Our outstanding medical professionals and other technical teams began preparedness activity exceedingly early in January of 2020, and this redounded to the Federation only having 17 confirmed cases with 15 recovered and 2 active cases presently. The technical group then became the National COVID-19 Task Force, which coordinated a comprehensive public awareness campaign that prepared our citizens for the impact of the virus to our lives and livelihoods. Our citizens and residents rose to the occasion and exercised patriotism in its highest form in command to the battle call of the Honorable Prime Minister to shelter in place as we fought to contain and eradicate COVID-19 within the Federation. We closed our borders to a few countries at first, then to all countries as our list grew, and finally we were forced to isolate from the entire world. We then experienced challenges with the accessibility of goods and services, be it food or hardware supplies. This unprecedented and complex situation challenged our knowledge base and expertise. Technology was used to facilitate the adaptation of new protocols to facilitate social and physical distancing, our new norm. The first wave of COVID-19 has been contained. The restrictive measures were relaxed gradually and systematically. The government response with the stimulus package added value to the response effort and the lives of many citizens affected by the impact of COVID-19. The leadership provided by the government ought to be applauded. Emergency powers regulations were created to guide the way individuals and sectors should operate. The manufacturing sector was proactive in developing pre- and post-impact plans for the restoring of this sector. To date, 75% of the manufacturing sector have returned to work. Just as recently, as of the 20th of July, 30 more workers from this sector were authorized to return to work. The agricultural sector was given great attention as food security was a high priority to the task force and the government by extension. Crop farmers, livestock farmers, and fishermen were engaged to ensure continuity in the food supply chain. The commercial sector was gradually opened as small businesses such as beauty salons and barbershops were sensitized as per the new norm of operation. It must be noted that none of these small businesses have been a source of transmission or spread of the virus. The education and sporting sector exercise their institutional responsibility and have developed protocols using international guidelines with the guidance of the National Task Force as per the opening of these sectors. A phased approach to education was adopted by allowing the 6th and 5th formers to undertake their SEC and CAPE examinations. The reopening of the early childhood development will be the second phase, and subsequently the reopening of the primary and secondary schools. The COVID-19 task force further explored other activities to stimulate the economy, with the reopening of bars and restaurants after consultation with this sector. The opening of small businesses that supports tourism activities and the return of our foreign students will significantly contribute to stimulating the economy. The repatriation of our citizens continues to be an ongoing, controlled process that allows our citizens who were trapped in the diaspora after our borders were closed to return home. Therefore, noted activities were carried out in a very meticulous and methodical way to ensure safety for our citizenry with no compromise to the health and well-being of our citizens. Our social lifestyle is slowly being restored with the opening of beaches, churches, and other forms of social activities. The reopening of Caribbean 8 Cinema was another indicator of the returning to normalcy within the sphere of the new norm. Let me emphatically state that complacency must not be adopted as the new acceptable norm in society. The successes gained must not be lost by willful disobedience, but instead, we must enhance this and sustain it so that we can coexist with the COVID-19 virus. I would like to acknowledge the contribution of Dr. Hazel Laws, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, the entire Ministry of Health, now being managed by the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet and formerly by the Honorable Wendy Phipps, as well as P.S. Delores Stapleton Harris, Dr. Keisha Leedy, and her team of environmental health officers, Nurse Irish and her team for the great work that they are doing in contact tracing and testing. The emergency medical teams and all the doctors and nurses of the Joseph N. France General Hospital, auxiliary and maintenance crews for the JNF Hospital, and all the health facilities on island. The members of the task force, in particular, Ms. Ophelia Blanchard, Ms. Marceline Hughes, Ms. Kay Bass, Superintendent of Police, Mr. Cromwell Henry and Travis Rogers, Mr. Kennedy De Silva, Mr. Denzel James, Leswell Williams, Vesta Southwell, the High Command of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, the commanders of the St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force, and everyone who have contributed to the success of the response. I also wish to specially acknowledge the support provided by the Honorable Vincent Barron Jr., the Honorable Wendy Phipps, and the entire NEOC, guided by Ms. Clarissa Langley Stevens. Equally, I must acknowledge our social partners and civic society, the St. Kitts Nevis Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the St. Kitts Christian Council, and the St. Kitts Evangelical Association, the various clubs and the various non-governmental organizations that has supported this cause. My gratification comes from the faith in God and that our leaders and citizens of our Twin Island Federation, together we have triumphantly crushed the first wave of COVID-19, bearing in mind that our proactive approach can be compared to a David in a Goliath world. The successes gained must not be erased or be at the mercy of haste to do what is favorably profitable for a few in our society, but for the greater good of all in this federation. I am confident that our people possess the skill sets required to maintain a highly competitive country in this competitive world. We have the fortitude to be a resilient nation, and I end by saying, let us be the first to be last and the last to be first in reopening our sectors responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. It's 9 o'clock on the dot. We'll take a very quick break. I'd just like to